Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Welcome to the Neighborhood Pulse with Kevin Callback. You know, wherever you are in life, you never forget the neighborhood. This is the show that talks to real estate professionals all about real estate business and how to maximize your career. Hear it from the industry professionals. Join host Kevin Callback from Realty Executive Cornerstone to learn what the Neighborhood Pulse is. Of course, the Neighborhood Pulse brought to you in part through the financial support of our good friends over at Mobile Accounting Inc. 224-321-6859, or check them out at www.mobile.tax for all of your accounting, personal, and business needs. Today on the Pulse, agent to agent, off the beaten path to getting sales. Kevin, welcome in.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. How are you today, sir?
I am healthy, happy, and terrific. Thank you for asking.
Absolutely. We got Mr. Jay Satterfield here with us today, a superstar in the real estate realm. He is rocking it, and he did just finished a transaction for himself today.
Hey.
So that is kind of cool. Always fun, right? And he is with Charleston Residential. You can look him up there at charlestonresidential.com.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Good morning, Jay. How are you, sir?
Fantastic. Thanks for asking.
That's it. Well, thanks for being here. We appreciate you and you showing up today. And, we talked in the green room a little bit about the beaten path and how to get things done and, what people need to do. And whether you're new or old agents, we can all learn something every day.
Absolutely.
Yep, absolutely. So we talked a little bit. So tell us a little bit about the area you're in.
I'm in the greater Charleston area, South Carolina. We're not a super big metro area, probably 750,000. I live in Mount Pleasant, which is just across the bridge from Peninsular Charleston. Little town of about 100,000 people, and then there's two islands just due southeast of us, Isle of Palms and Sullivan's Island.
Yeah.
And that's commonly known as east of the Cooper, as they say it here.
Beautiful.
Cooper, east of the Cooper.
Yeah. It's a gorgeous place down there. Yeah, I know right where you're at. We visited a couple of years ago. My son was he's in the Navy and he was stationed down there.
Mm-hmm.
And absolutely great place. Yeah.
Yep, that's it. Good food, good scenery, great water. It's all nice,
Absolutely. I grew up in North Carolina, Charlotte area, and I wanted to just get a little closer to the beach and not burn up the highway going back and forth. So I did that in 1994 and never looked back.
There you go. That's the way to do it. That's it. You have a rear view mirror, but you don't need to use it. That's right. Exactly.
That's
Fantastic. So we're talking about helping agents, whether they're new or old, getting leads. What can they do different? What can we expect from working hard? And you had talked about how you got your start in real estate. One of the things that you did. Can you share that with us?
Sure. I mean, I did all the regular things, told everyone that I came in contact with, let them know I was getting in the real estate business even before I did. So I'd kind of start nurturing and farming some relationships early on. I called expired listings. I called for sale by owners, but I really wasn't getting a lot of traction with that. And so I focused a little bit on land and vacant land because I found out that a lot of the agents really just wanted the easy 3-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 2-bath houses. And so I was like, I'm going to go for something that not everyone's waking up for, trying to conquer every day. And so I started reverse searching. I would look up on the global, county GIS systems and find vacant lots and vacant parcels. And I invested a whopping $19 a month in White Pages. No plug for them, but it works. I think you get 200 lookups a month for $19, and that's the premium White Pages. And I just started looking up property owners and calling them and just saying, hey, would you ever thought about selling your land? And I mean, I went as far to call the vacant lot across the street from me, The lady lived in California, and she said, as a matter of fact, I would like to sell it. I sold that many years ago. But one thing that I started focusing on relatively early on are parcels that were along busy streets or busy highways. And
Right.
I found out that that was a good way to guerrilla market for me, because even if the listing was not priced absolutely wonderfully, it would help me put a giant sign by the road. So I'd put double V-shaped 4x8 signs up on the highway,
Right.
main boulevards. And so it really helped me with brand recognition over the long haul. And it still does to this day.
That is, yeah. Signs on the big signs on big highways is a great advertising. It's free. I've done billboards before, and billboards are expensive, very expensive.
Mhm.
So if you can list something and have a sign out there just about the same size, that is great marketing, and it's a great opportunity to make some money. Here we've had some growth in Lakemore, Volo area, and they put a Woodman's. Woodman's a great grocery store. You know, it's huge. It's got its own gas station, kind of like a Walmart, but different.
Mhm.
And once they built there, man, the land right around there started selling like hotcakes. There's signs everywhere. And
Mhm.
I'm sad that I missed that opportunity and didn't have the foresight to get on that, because now everybody's on land by us right now in that area. But that's not in every area. Land is starting to sell a little bit better here because God stopped making more of it. So there's
Mhm.
no more to have than what we got. So selling land here is in that area is tough, but I love your thoughts about you starting off with land, and it's one of the off the beaten path, and not every agent's looking at it. Um, what would you say if you're getting into land, because it gets a little bit different animal than,
Mhm.
than single family properties? What's a couple of tips you could give to look out for, or things that you should be concerned with when you're listing it?
I think in our area, and probably a lot of areas across America, one of the things is that whoever you're talking to actually has clear title to the property would be the first thing.
Right.
And and because a lot of people have land and grandpa died and no one ever did anything. They live in the country and they didn't go down to the courthouse and probate his estate. Maybe he didn't have a will. And so you end up with grandchildren and nephews and nieces that own all this property, and it can be a little bit of a trick to get it to the closing table. So one of the things I do for most of the people that have land like that, and I happen to get the listing and it is in an heirs property scenario, or maybe there's just some defect in the title, oftentimes I will uh, get the buyer to pay for any legal fees to clear the property.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
and so the buyer will pay. Often, I'll find a piece of land that has a buyer, and then I'll go to the people and say, "Will you sell?" And so that buyer will agree to pay $5,000, $10,000 because he wants the property that bad. And the seller, no one in the family wants to spend that type of money because they know the rest of the siblings aren't going to reimburse them.
Right.
And so we'll get the property sold that way, and then the estate will pay the buyer back for the initial attorney fees.
That's awesome.
Help we write that in the contract. So it's just like a temporary loan for them.
Right.
And then if it's a couple $100,000 or 300,000, they got to split it 10 ways. They're only going to make 30,000, and if you divide 5,000 in legal fees across 30 people, it's not that much.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's true though. But my grandma bought a piece of land, or my great grandma bought a piece of land in Tennessee, and then
Mm-hmm.
when she passed, it got to my grandma, and from my grandma it went to one of my aunts, but then it went to my mom, and all those people have passed. So I have no idea what the title situation is on that, how many people's names are on it, or if it's transferred or what. But I might look you up to get that taken care of. But just fantastic. It's land is good, right? Because you can, zoning is a big question to ask people when they're looking for land too, right?
Yeah, zoning's very important. People, there are many buyers out there for land, whether it's commercial, personal, people wanting to get out of the city and have a green acres lifestyle. Um, the and I think my biggest push on land is that people sometimes, the biggest pushback I receive on land is that it's family land and there's an emotional attachment to it, and they're going to hold on to it for a while. And I think my number one response to that would be, for example, I have a piece of land right now that's next door to a piece of commercial land I'm trying to sell. The land is just a half an acre. You can't really do much with it because it's so small. I would like to combine it with the piece that I have for sale. It's another half acre and it's on a corner. And so the father wants to leave it to his son. And I've been actually talking to this family for more than 3 years.
Wow.
And I said, had you sold the land 3 years ago, I know we can't go back in time, or let's say even 4 years ago, because it's almost 4 years. It'll be 4 years this fall. You could have bought $200,000-$300,000 rental properties and made and netted more than $50,000 a year for the last 2 years. And that's not gross, that's net.
Right.
And I actually met with him on Monday, and that was my proposal. He's going to talk to his son. I'm supposed to get back with him next week, but that's the negative side of owning land, is that it doesn't really make you money unless you can rent it out for some reason.
Right. Yeah, it's tillable or something like that, right?
The positive is that not as many agents are going after it, because oftentimes it takes a little longer to sell it, depending on where it is.
Sure.
And people want the easy stuff. They want the low-hanging fruit. The agents are competing hard for the 3-bedroom, 2-bath houses, in a good price point, in a good neighborhood.
Right.
And I get those occasionally, but I have some, commercial and residential land for sale, and I just sold some for other sellers.
It's awesome. It's great. Land is fantastic. It's the zoning, the cost, the maintenance, knowing the zoning is very important, and what can be used for. Where do you get that from? You're going to your local village or township, right?
Yeah, I have found out that, I work with basically 3 counties in a few different cities: Charleston proper, Mount Pleasant, and then you've got some surrounding suburb cities like Somerville, which is in Dorchester County, and then there's a couple of other counties around here. But I find that most of the people that work in the zoning and mapping department are really willing to share anything with you. Even if it's just like, how can I click the right link to find out the zoning overlay charts? They'll walk you through it. So I've learned, and I'm still learning, because my number one county is Charleston County, and I'm more familiar with their GIS. And some things you might want to know is, how far is it to city water or city sewer? To know how long of how expensive it's going to be. What are the tap fees? Is it perkable? Can you put septic in? Those are a lot of things you need to become familiar with. Help people give them the right direction.
Right.
Give them the right direction.
The McHenry County GIS is very good. And not only the township, but the assessors in our area are just super helpful too, whether taxes or anything like that, just checking for anything that might be on the property. So
right.
It's
that's really good, to know about that. Here they call it DHEC, Department of Health and Environmental Control.
Right.
And so you need to know how to submit a request for a septic system. You need to know, you need to have some good relationships with some soil engineers that could go out and do some tests. Oftentimes they're going to be much quicker, especially since the pandemic. The last 2 years, the state or the county offices are not able to get a septic test to you within 30 days like they used to. It's taken 3 and 4 months. So your due diligence is really up in the air, and most sellers aren't going to wait that long. So I hire some private soil consultants. They're a couple $100 an hour, but you usually only need them a couple of hours.
Right.
And they'll do tests for you.
I've been lucky enough that I'm in the process of replacing my septic, because it just needs to be replaced. And we had the soil testing was about $500, so
right.
So it wasn't bad. A couple $100 an hour. He came out, he drilled 4 holes. They checked the quality, and now it goes to an engineer who will design it. So you have to have septic designers as well. Like you said, the tap in fee for public and city water and sewer. What does that cost, and what is the run from where you're going to put the house to comparison to the street, right?
Right.
So if you're running 100 feet, it's going to be a little more expensive than if you're 20 feet off the street.
Correct.
So setback lines, things like that, you'll need to know, right? That's awesome. I tell you, land is one of those hidden gems.
I don't know about where you are, specifically how well the soil percolates, but we're in what they call the low country, and oftentimes there's a layer of clay just below the surface, maybe a foot or so. And if you have that, you very well may need an engineered system, which typically means you're going to have more a wider field instead of digging 16 or 18 inches. Your trenches may need to be 24 to 36, and you need more gravel, or you may need a grinder pump. You may need a bigger tank. So the straight septic system here is about 6,500, and you don't really need an engineer for it.
Ah, that's good.
So, looking that way as a new realtor, taking a look at maybe the land and doing some is the close harder? Is it easier, than showing a house and signing a contract and away you go?
I think it's a little easier in some ways, and then there are times when it could be a little harder. So there's not a real clear and definite answer on that. But I will say that some agents have never closed a lot, not even a subdivision lot. So I would just encourage agents to become familiar with land and lots, look at their contract, talk to other agents that maybe have done land, because we are real estate professionals and we're licensed to sell land, skyscrapers, boat slips. And so I would just recommend not leaving that fruit on the vine and let it rot, because it is another way to, I think, expand your business, not really distract you from your business, but expand it to where you're getting some high visibility listings that will actually help your residential business or your commercial business or whatever is your forte.
Yeah, that's for sure. And it's hard. I think a lot of agents don't do it because they don't know where to get started or know
Right.
how to get into land. Okay, I want to sell this piece of land. What do I do? Right. So there's the steps they need to follow, and they need to find a mentor like yourself who's done it before, and can show them those steps and the processes and the paperwork and there's a lot to it. And you don't want to make a mistake because you get the wrong zoning and somebody buys that. There's gonna be a problem, right?
I would even take it one step further. Even buying a home in a rural area, you have to be careful with as well, because I know people that have bought homes. The first time a big rainstorm came, they were 6 inches underwater on their entire lot. So you need to know what the
elevations are.
You need your elevation, your base flood. So the most important thing to do if you're representing a buyer buying land is to make sure, number one, you have enough due diligence time in the contract to do the required testing and research. And then you need to know who to contact for your develop a relationship with surveyors that will respond, because they're busy. If they don't know you, that you're going to be kind of last on the list. So you need to call around, find a surveyor that you can partner with that will respond within a reasonable time. And you're going to need a wetlands expert if you're near the coastal areas. You may need a geo soil study if you're building an elevated house to make sure the house doesn't sink. There's all sorts of tests depending upon what part of the country you're in. If you're in California, you may need seismic testing done.
Right.
You may need to find out how much rock you can remove from the side of a cliff and still build the house there.
I don't know. I don't know why anybody would want to be in California.
So the biggest question is how much is enough, and there really is no set answer. I would say, when in doubt, stretch it out. 60 days minimum, 30 days if it's a pretty clean cut development and it's already subdivided and it has a recent survey. 30 days is reasonable. But if it's not, a planned community, I'm going to want at least 60 days usually.
Yeah. So we've got a listener who texted in and says, I'm testing right now to get my real estate license. Jay, what is your background? Has it always been real estate, or did you jump in late?
My background is sort of twofold. I was heavy in the construction and rehab business in my early days, and then in the early 90s, that tells my age a little bit, I did a career change and got in the insurance industry, and that's basically how I supported my real estate habit of buying and flipping houses and buying rentals and things like that.
There you go.
Nice. Okay. So you've been kind of attached to it for a while. So yeah, good for you.
That's
but I would just encourage people that do get in, any up and coming agent to learn about the product you're selling, learn about how a house is put together, learn about, some standard building practices and finishing practices, because it will really help your buyers if you can spot potential problems or spot things that look good. If you're selling a car and you know nothing about a car, why should I buy a car from you? You really want someone, typically the dealerships train the salespeople specifically on their car, about the engine, the transmission, the electronics, the features. And so I would just say, learn as much about a home, learn as much about a house, a condo, regimes, who pays insurance, who's responsible for what, termite letters, who carries the bond. There's a lot of moving parts on houses and condos, but in land, find out about the basic things we mentioned, soil studies, surveys, just protect your client. That's the number one thing we're supposed to do, is protect our client, whether they're a buyer or seller.
That's it. Code of Ethics National Association of Realtors put their interests above all others, including your own. Is that correct? Amen, brother.
That's right. And have the heart of a teacher, like Dave Ramsey says.
Absolutely. I love it. Yep, that's it. And that's how we met, is through Dave Ramsey being Ramsey Trusted Pros. We love it. Did you catch that reality real estate program the other day?
I did not, but I'd love for you to fill me in on it sometime, or now if you want.
No, not now. Okay, it was a good conversation. But essentially, and everybody's asking, what's the market? Where are we going? Are we going to crash? And I think everybody I've listened to so far, for the most part, there's a couple of fear mongers out there, but have said that they don't think the market's going to crash. They think it's going to stay about where it's at with pricing. Maybe in the upper end, it might come down a little bit. We're seeing more open houses. We're seeing some price reductions in some areas and such. But the real estate market is going to continue to increase over the next 3 to 5 years, that 2 to 5% a year, with interest rates increasing as well. So we'll be back similar to an older time back in the day, when interest rates, it was typical to have a 7 or 8% interest rate, right? And that's Dave's drought too.
We have more buyers in the market now, more 35-year-olds than we had last time. We have a lot less inventory. The builders did not overbuild like they did in 2005 and 6. So I read the article that Dave published regarding that, and I believe it's so true. And a lot of the brake tapping we're going to see is really just bringing that hyper excitement pricing down to really in a realistic pricing.
Right. Absolutely. I agree with you on that. Is a lot of unsatisfied buyers out there. So I think we're still going to sell a lot of homes. And like you said, I think now's a good time to buy.
A quick personal example. I listed a house in December for $735 last year that did not sell. It went off the market, came back on the market 2 months ago, and he wanted $800 for it.
Woo.
Guess what? No offers.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
One house in that neighborhood, just like his, sold for $800, and they're still hanging on to that hope. And that was just someone that got lucky. Someone was relocating from out of town. Yeah. They were willing to pay 30, 40, 50,000. overvalued, just like a lot of buyers were.
Right.
Even though it wasn't over asking price, they paid the full listing price. So I think the multiple offers are still out there. I'm still seeing multiple offers,
Sure.
but not on things. Once you get above 600-700 in our market, I think you're going to see a little bit of break tapping, and around 700.
Right.
800.
We saw some break tapping when the interest rates jumped. Everybody kind of took a breath back, like, what the heck? Hold on a second here. And then they're like, well, all right, we missed it. And they're hoping that rates were going to come back down and get better. And they didn't. So then people just came back to the market. They're like, oh, rats.
You can't trade backwards, right?
No.
Exactly. I mean, the prices will be lower, so your payment will be lower based on, you'll be able to get a little better deal out there. And rates today, I saw published FHA and VA were 4.875.
Yep.
And conventional was 4.99.
Yeah,
That's
conventional more.
I had my personal home loan up until 2 years ago for 15 years at 5%. I never changed it.
Yeah.
And that's a great rate.
Yeah, it's a great rate.
You know what Dave would say about that, don't you?
What would he say?
He'd say you should have paid that sucker off.
All right.
That's it.
Funny stuff for this. So, thank you for sharing land with us and your knowledge on that. And it's a great opportunity for people because it's not everybody jumping on that land.
Out in Charleston, as you talk about land, especially for realtors, are there a lot of lenders out there looking to do loans on vacant land, or are those hard to come by?
Typically, you're going to look 20-25% down on land, and you're going to typically go through a local bank. It's not going to be your big national lenders.
Right.
One of the things I also do is a part of my diversified approach to land is I buy tax deeds. I go to the delinquent tax sales. And I realized I didn't have enough money. I mentioned originally I used to use insurance to fund my real estate habit. That's what I did. I saved enough money in my IRA. I have a self-directed Roth IRA, and I would buy real estate tax deeds in my IRA. And so I got pretty good at it to where I would, sometimes buy land, sometimes buy a house. And years ago, before things went crazy, I could get a house for $5,000 or $10,000 and at a tax sale, and then I'd fix it up and sell it. And none of the proceeds are taxable as long as they're deferred through my IRA. Well, I started getting other investors to let me buy tax deeds with their money. So that's another source of income. So I typically buy a few $1 million worth of tax deeds. Some of that is my money and some is investors. So if you get the property, they typically will let you sell it. So it's another way for you to get land listings because you just help them acquire some land. And you can slice it up and maybe get an equity stake for finding it and picking the right properties. But you have to be careful. Do your research. Make sure it's not a wetland or a HOA strip or a pond.
Yeah,
because people do buy those at tax sales.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
And covenants. There might be covenants on it. We had a guy, Eddie, was looking at a piece of land, and the HOA or the builder next to it with the HOA owned that land previously and didn't want to give access. So no access to the land unless you drive through their subdivision stuff. So now you got to find another road, and it's because you can't landlock it. They have to give access, but there was a covenant on there and restrictions of saying what it could be used for, and it had to be used for specific type of housing.
Right.
So you got to be careful. You buy that, and all of a sudden you got to sell it to somebody that wants to do that with that land.
Better do your research. Yes.
Do your research for sure. Right. That's crazy. So you got a new agent by you. Congratulations. I'm very excited for you. That's always fun. And you're in the training process. As you're in the training process and you're telling them, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to make you rich within the next 30 days. What are you teaching them first? What are the first things that are coming up?
Well, there's all types of personalities that get in real estate, and I think everyone thinks up front they need to be an extroverted, salesperson. But I've seen people, whether they're introverted, extroverted, or somewhere in the middle, do well as long as they're willing to work and have someone to give them some good advice. But I would say that biggest thing is developing the mindset that you are now a real estate professional and you're in the business to help people through the process. Basically, they're going to trust you with one of their most valuable assets, and you need to not look at it as I'm trying to make money off someone, because people can see dollar signs in your eyes. And so I think that's the biggest thing, is to flip the mindset to where you're in the business of helping people, and you need to be proud of it. You need to tell people when the opportunity is right. You don't have to shout it from the mountaintop. If you're talking to people about, hey, what do you do? And they say, I'm, a corporate person, CPA. And then they go, well, what do? You just say, I help people buy real estate. You don't have to say, I'm a realtor, because there's not a lot of substance to that. Just say, I help people buy and sell real estate, and, make sure they get the most amount of service they can in the process.
Yeah.
That's really what we do. We're not just a word.
Right.
We're a
Absolutely.
little bit more. So I think that's becoming comfortable with that conversation. I think that's the number one thing. And then developing success habits, not results habits, but, success habits, to where you're, making calls, you're talking to people, you're sending out. I mean, basically you become a politician to some extent. I hate to run a parallel with politicians, like politicians, but you think about most people that vote for someone, they don't even know anything about them. They just know that they have name recognition.
Yep.
And so you want to start developing a name recognition through whatever means that are legal. The old-fashioned business card. I know an old-time agent. He's probably been in the business 40 years. He started out with door hangers at apartment complexes.
Yeah.
And with interest rates, where they were back in the day, even with those rates, people were still calling him and buying houses. And so, I mean, a 2-bedroom apartment where I am is probably as much as a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. And so if you help people bridge that, help them be willing to help people clean up their credit. There's a lot of things that realtors do that will help people, other than just filling out paperwork. We may have to help them figure out where to find and hire the right types of contractors, roofers, gutter contractors, crawl-space people. You need to learn a lot about the product and the process.
Right. Absolutely.
If you need to do that, you'll succeed.
Yeah, those are a lot of good tips there for sure. And when you know those folks and you can refer them out, and you get people who stress out when they have to call a repairman to the house. So you have somebody that you can trust to treat them fairly and do a great job. People truly appreciate that. They truly do. And you're right that we're not just dollar sign folks. And you say a realtor, some people already have a conclusion of what they think a realtor is, or a real estate agent, right? And so sometimes helping buy and sell homes, helping people accomplish their goals or their dreams, are terms that you can explain a little bit more and give them a better picture. And I've always found that when somebody says, well, how's the market? I usually say, well, do you looking to buy, sell, or rent? what are you looking at? Because it's different everywhere, right? And so we talked briefly about for sale by owner, which we call FSBOs, and expireds. Do you have your new agents start working on those right quick, or?
I do. One of the things that we did a little different with this particular agent that I haven't done before is I have a mini ring that you could plug into like your phone, not a mini, like a ring light. Okay. And once he makes contact and sets the appointment, he does a video message and says, hey, thanks for speaking with me today. I look forward to meeting you next Tuesday. And I think that really helps them stand out and develop that relationship, be a little more unique because everybody's calling. So doing a quick follow-up video text or video email is very good. And then when he leaves the appointment, he literally stops at the post office and drops a card in the mail to them,
Yeah, absolutely.
handwritten card.
Yeah.
And so those are the two things that I found that work to really, I mean, he's already, contracted some things, two contracts so far in the month. But I think that it just being willing to handle rejection and realize people aren't saying no to you. They're just saying not right now a lot of times.
Right.
And a couple of people he's called back have listed and they swore they wouldn't list.
Right.
So that's another area where you need to educate yourself and say that, 89% of all for sale by owners are going to list with someone. If you're talking to the potential seller, if you become one of those 89% of sellers that do decide to choose a realtor, would you give me a consideration?
Right.
And another thing is that's you can find this on the internet pretty easily. As far as price wise, the average house sold by a realtor brings in 6% more money than a house that's sold for sale by owner. And you need to be able to confidently convey those two messages to potential for sale by owner clients.
That's true. And like you said, 89% of people that are for sale by owner do wind up selling with an agent, or they wind up selling for less money. Right.
Right.
So it's interesting. And this market here, I think a lot of people thought it might be easy to sell their homes and tried FSBO. And I think they found out real quick that there's a lot more to it than just putting a for sale sign in front of your house.
Mm-hmm. And there was a recent Gallup poll done that said over the last 11 years, from real estate, stocks, gold, and savings account, real estate won out by far. Nearly 50% of people were happier with their real estate performance value-wise over their stock market or mutual funds or in gold, CDs, bonds, etc. And so it's more than just a place to call home, living in a house. That leads me to the second thing. I try to really talk to a lot of investors that are sitting on money and say, hey, let's buy yourself a rental property.
Right.
Because you can depreciate it. You can do it in certain vehicles that are tax deferred, or you can sell a piece of land, buy a income earning piece of land. I mean, income earning property, whether it's a duplex, quadruplex, or single family, and let your money work for you. And ultimately, I do like land, but I like to see people get out of land and get income producing property.
Absolutely. Yeah. Anytime you can get an income producing property, now you're paying it off. Somebody else is paying it off for you. You're like you said, you get to depreciate it in your taxes and such. And they're paying the balance down. So
even if they pay cash for the property, they can still receive rent, either qualified or non-qualified. If they own the property in an IRA, all that rent can go straight to the qualified intermediary, whoever that custodian may be, and it just builds like your mutual fund would build.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of opportunities out there, and that's for sure. And we'd love to do another show with you on investing, and maybe we'll get me, you, and Rick on here, and we'll talk it up. We got Kent Jones here. Kent is a lender with McHenry Savings Bank and does a great job. And his MLS number is
125-8805.
Sounds great. So I got to do that. Sorry.
Great radio voice.
Yeah, I've got a great face.
That's right. That's for sure. So we got FSBOs, we got expireds. Now, when you have them talk to for sale by owners and expires, do you have scripts in place, or do you kind of guide them that way? How do you?
Yeah, we have some scripts. I don't have long scripts. They're pretty much to the point. But I'm willing to go off script with, as long as I get and they can go off script as long as they get the initial question asked, because if you're asking questions, you're in control of the conversation, but you've got to be careful to not ask too many questions too quickly, because they'll be like, why are you calling me up and interrogating me?
Right.
You have a buyer for my house, or what? But I think if you develop a miniature relationship with them first and be genuine, you can ask questions without feeling like you're intruding. And
Right.
there's so many robocalls and calls from people that don't really even understand our real estate area or our culture, and that are just robocalling to uh, see if you want to sell your rental property, for example. I get those calls all the time, and
Yeah.
I'm polite with them, but I just tell them I'm not interested. But if
Right.
it's a real person that you can connect with, uh, I think it makes a difference. And I'm willing to talk to a potential buyer for an hour. And a lot of the guys I think out there are just trying to get to the next call and get to a yes. And I think if you're talking to a for sale by owner, you really got to ask yourself, what are your motivations? Your motivations are really to build a long-term client,
Right.
build a friendship too, but along the way, so I'll talk to someone and they may not want to do any business with me with that particular property. But after I've talked with them 10, 15, 20 minutes, I may say, hey, can I just ask you, do you own any other properties? Do you have any land and that you might be willing to sell? And believe it or not, if you ask the question, you'll find out the answer. And
Yep.
the majority of the time they don't, but there have been times when I ended up getting a listing on a piece of property I didn't even call them about. So you always have to be aware of your situations, I think, whether you're standing in the grocery store line or on the phone with the for sale by owner or a expired listing or,
It's true, and that's the big thing is you're. I think probably one of the biggest takeaways is if you're just trying to make money and that's your motive and that's your drive, then you're probably in the wrong business.
Yeah.
I mean, you can probably still make a bunch of money doing it, but I don't know that you're going to make a forever clients, clients for life, or your referrals, things like that. If people feel like they've been put through a machine, they're not going to refer you. And I have a lead system that creates leads for me, and we close a lot of them. It's expensive, but out of that, it's created so much other business that I don't mind taking the expensive lead, right?
exactly.
But conversation is a lost art in a lot of
That's so
individuals.
true.
But the nice thing is, whether you said an introvert, an extrovert, wherever that case is, or whatever you may be doing, if you can just have a conversation and love on people, you're going to be okay. You're going to be good. But like you said, the other thing you said is you got to work.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is you got to show up. If you don't show up, you will not make any money.
Well, I like what I'm hearing from Jay is this week is creativity. You got to be
That's
able to be a little bit creative when you're when you're first into the business to try to figure out how to get things done or make them look a little bit different. I mean, to your point, a quarter acre lot that's just grass is most people drive by and it's a quarter acre lot that needs to be mowed.
Yeah, right. That's right.
So
Yeah.
how do you get creative to find a way to make that attractive?
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Mhm.
It's
I
about
remember the first lot I bought was like a quarter acre lot in an old non HOA neighborhood. And I bought it for really, it's a long story, but I called them up.
Wanted a card game.
The lady inherited it from her, family. Her husband was an attorney. And I said, hey, would you be willing to sell that lot? And they said, yeah. And I said, for what? And they quoted a number to me that they were happy with. It was $35,000, and I bought it. I had sold some, tax deed properties, and I had some 1031 exchange money, and I bought it for 35 and sold it for 65 like the next day.
Wow.
Almost, it was like a week or two later, and I closed it within a month. And it was just from a reverse finding a vacant lot,
Yeah.
looking it up on the GIS, getting the phone number. Now, not every new agent's going to be able to do that, but
Right.
they might have a friend that would like a deal like that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
They
it.
might have a cousin, uncle, father, mother, sister that would love a way to make some quick money. And if you could show them, hey, this lot here, we could buy it for 35 and lots are selling for 70 in this neighborhood, you could make some money. Now don't go out and borrow the money, for something like that. I don't recommend that, but
Right.
Well,
got some extra cash, you can do things with it.
and you spoke a little bit earlier about your community banks or your local community banks, not the big ones. But believe it or not, is another good place to do some farming because they've got commercial lenders. They've got people who go to the bank still and say, hey, you know what? I've got this 1031. I'm looking for, do you guys have any REO property? So banks, local community banks can be a pretty wealthy source of conversations as well if you're not afraid to go in and find the right person to talk to.
Right. And it was you actually at we during tax time, people come in and they still pay their tax bill at the bank.
Yep.
Which most people do it online now, but there's still a lot of people that come in the bank. And we hung out in the lobby just talking to people about their taxes, and a lot of them were frustrated about their tax bill, and we're thinking about selling. And it was great conversations. We worked with Jose, and we've worked with a number of transactions. And so there's a lot of different ways to make this go, right?
That's right.
It's kind of crazy. So I just want to recap a little bit before we wrap up today. First off is we are professionals. Like Jay said, I'm just going to recap some of what we talked about, Jay, is you're a real estate professional. So I think the first time I realized that, and when I first got in real estate, and somebody says, well, what's your professional opinion? And I said, who, me? Like, at that time I was new, a rookie. I'm like, oh boy. So people do expect you to hold yourself to a standard. And the National Association of Realtors has a code of ethics that I think everybody should read. Know the rules for the land, what it can be used for, build success habits, call people, videos, send cards, name recognition should be important for land. Use door hangers, find lenders that do land or whatever properties you're looking to work with. But more importantly, for land was know your product, know the zoning, know the land use, what it's for, well and septic, soil test, surveys, what the buyer is willing to pay. Make sure you set enough time for people to do their due diligence. And then you can get out there and start looking into buying taxes as well, which is a great way to get your real estate business going as well. So, Jay, you provide us with a wealth of knowledge today. You are amazing. I truly appreciate you coming on today.
Well, it's an honor to talk with you, gentlemen, and appreciate your time and your wisdom in the industry as well.
That's it. We'll talk soon, Jay.
All right.
You have an amazing day.
All right, everybody, for 21.6 Net, thanks for getting caught in the net with us this afternoon. For more information about what and how Jay does what he does, go to www.charlestonresidential.com and check it all out. And Kevin, they can find you at
KevinCallbackGroup.com, 708-277-3913. Text us for scripts on for sale by owners.
There you go.